It doesn't matter what the product is. It doesn't matter if it's mortgages. It doesn't matter if it's computers. It doesn't matter if it's entrepreneur coaching. At the end of the day, the product that's so far removed from what you're doing for other people, that it's the systems and the operations and the successes that I think can really get you there, dude. One of the things that I've noticed as I'm like learning more about other people's businesses, and I teach a lot of these mechanisms in my course, like key performance indicators, but what's crazy is like, once you get above the product, everything seems to be the same, right? Yeah. So like, tell me a little bit about your experience dealing with businesses and like, what are those big kind of pillars that are so important for operating a business, whether you have employees or not? It's the same, right?
Yeah. It's super interesting because I actually invested in a course myself recently. It's from Cole Gordon, if you're familiar with
I actually have Cole. Yeah, Closers AI?
Yeah.
Or IO, yeah. I'm working with Cole.
That's awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, so I went through Cole's program, and he was really talking about like the core pillars with scaling a company. And it was as I was in the journey with my company, Arizona Entrepreneurs, where I was trying to bring on a sales team, ramp up our marketing, do all these different things. And I realized he broke it down so simple in that course, but basically all it comes down to is marketing, sales, and fulfillment. So you have, how am I going to generate leads on the front end and attract people who that I can serve with my product or service? And then sales, how am I going to convert those leads into sales? And then from there, how does our operations work? So how are we able to fulfill on the products and services we're offering within a streamlined fashion? So when he broke that down, it was super interesting because at that point, I had probably been on like close to 50 to 100 sales calls, like for our memberships and different things we're doing at Arizona Entrepreneurs. And I was like, every single one of the things he just mentioned is all the problems that I hear from entrepreneurs.
No doubt.
Like struggling with leads,
right?
Struggling with sales, or I'm struggling with operations.
So. And I think what happens too is like people, they always start from the bottom and go up.
Yeah.
Right? But if you actually have the business model at the top, like the 3 pillars you talked about, and then you break it down from there, you build the business from the top down, you tend to find success a little bit quicker. And a really proven model to that is no differently than you hooking up with Cole. I work with Cole. I was actually like ready to grow my business and scale it. And then I was at an event and I was hearing about like scorecards and KPI measurements and daily review. And I was like, whoa, dude, I'm not ready to scale. And I realized pretty quickly. So let's talk about the value of community now and like kind of leveraging other people to really get yourself to a quicker success, right? I mean, yeah. I think the people that become the most successful are using coaches, right?
100%.
So talk about that with me.
Yeah, I believe so much in community because I truly think that community is what's going to get you to success faster than anything in the world, because I tried both routes. I tried going through entrepreneurship and building businesses by myself where I had no mentors, no coaches, no friends that were also building businesses. And I can say from experience that was one of the most challenging times in my life because I was struggling as an entrepreneur. I couldn't really get it figured out. But once I ended up starting a community, but once I fully got immersed into community myself, I started to, build those friendships and relationships with others who were scaling businesses that we could mastermind and talk about the challenges we're going through. I also got around coaches and people that I can learn from, like Cole Gordon and some other people that have really helped me. So what I realized in my own personal life, and then also through Arizona Entrepreneurs with the community that we run and the people that I've seen lives change through the community, is that it all comes down to who you know, to what coaches and people you have teaching you the blueprint to build a company. Because at the end of the day, if you're just getting started, you can either learn from trial and tribulation, like just going through the process, or you can learn from someone else's.
Which is trials. That ground up model,
exactly.
Right? Which is tough, dude.
It is tough.
See, we get so accustomed to trying to be self-sufficient within our business because that's the way we were brought up through schools. Mm-hmm. It's like you sit down, you're basically in a cubicle and you're just focusing and grinding down on those little tasks, but you kind of forget that there's a coach in the room, which is the teacher.
Exactly.
Right? So I have found some of the stories that I hear is like, the biggest up and downs are the people that didn't get coaching. And I've even heard people like talk about suicidal issues and with losing so much in their business. What was your aha moment when you realized that, you're not going to be able to do, or that you can do it on your own, But where was that aha moment for you when it was like, all right, I need to get big here, and I need to get the right people in my corner?
So what inspired me to start Arizona Entrepreneurs in the first place. So I had moved out here about 4 years ago from Michigan. And when I got out here, I started my first business, like my first legitimate business. I like went all in on creating this videography company, funny enough. And it did not work out by any means. Like I was struggling, could not land clients. I was a pretty like average videographer at best. But was just trying to figure it out and get my foot in the door with entrepreneurship. And what I realized though is like, okay, what I'm doing right now is not working. So I need to start to network to like find clients, to find people I can serve, to find coaches. Like I just knew I needed to start to meet people because it was the first time I was new to the state and I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
And so when I had that epiphany, I went to all of the networking events that I could find in Arizona, and I saw a big need in the market for just like authentic connection to where it wasn't just like transactional, throwing business cards at each other, to where I could truly build quality relationships. And yeah, I would say that was really where that big epiphany came from, to where it was like, okay, I'm trying this myself. This is not working. I know that I need to get around other people. And it really started just by friendships, not even like mentors or coaches or anything crazy high level, but just to have a few friends that were also building companies I could go to and ask questions to get feedback. Exactly.
Yeah, community, right? One thing I wanted to chat on that you brought up in there, and I got to think about, okay, so how much more value have you been able to bring to other people because of that high level leadership and coaching that you've got?
That's crazy. It's crazy. And I think that's one of like the most fulfilling parts about it is obviously like you can apply it in your own business yourself, but the coolest thing about like learning these new concepts and things that really help you to grow your company is the fact that you could go share with someone else.
Totally, dude.
Which is fun to do. Yeah. So yeah, man, I've learned so much, especially the past couple of years, and like in hindsight's always 20/20, but looking back on it, like I definitely started that ground up model to where it's just like going through the weeds trying to figure it out.
And that is probably one of the most exhausting reasons as to why you don't want to try new things or scale new things, because of how long it took you to get that first thing done.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
But again, back to really adding value to other people.
Yeah. So, I started up that ground up model to where it was like, and I say that, but really what I mean is like just I feel like a lot of times when you're first getting started off in entrepreneurship, it's like bootstrapping a business and you're just you're putting the offer out there and figuring things out as you go. Yeah. But once you have more capital, resources, and everything, you could definitely start more from that top down model.
Totally.
And so with that being said, a lot of the things that I learned is just stuff that I'm going through experientially, where I'm like, okay, I'm building a sales team right now. I go through Cole's program, and it's like I could teach someone that. Or the same thing with marketing. I've learned some ridiculous like lead generation strategies that have blown up my business, and that's really like where my zone of genius is and what I love doing. It's like building the community, bringing people together, and like marketing and sales and stuff.
So one of the things that always had me like kind of concerned about was investing in myself. Once I started investing in myself and really getting the shortcuts to success, I realized I'm saving a shitload of money by not trying to figure this out on my own, right?
Yeah.
So when did that moment kind of break for you?
Yeah, and it's interesting because like, say I have like an example, like a real estate company. Like if my day-to-day operations and interactions for a real estate company are like talking to sellers and buyers, it's very important that I also find a mentor who's in real estate that has done that at a very high level.
Absolutely.
But it's interesting for me because my entire community is Arizona entrepreneurs. So I'm like immersed in this every single day. So a lot of it is in the form of like finding a coach and like paying for coaching and stuff. But a lot of it is just like based off this community and speakers I have on stage and everything, and just stuff that I'm picking up through these relationships that I'm building.
When you talked about growing and helping these individuals in the community, one of the things that we really focus on in my program is that authenticity. And the biggest gap there is bringing real authenticity to the forefront, and that kind of becoming your brand, which also then becomes the gateway of who you let in your life. Because that's so important for long-term success. Because if you let everybody in, you're just building that long-term stress where you hate your job, you hate when the phone rings. But what I really want to do, kind of where we are in the conversation, is how much, like we talked a little bit about it, but like I'm specifically helping loan officers grow their business, and part of that process is authenticity, and part of that process is helping other people make money. And that's kind of the skill set that you're bringing to the table, which is what we talked about a little bit out there is once you get to, there's a break point in sales and then running a business. And that's where you get like out of the hustle, you kind of become more entrepreneurial. But there's a break point where, and I want you to talk about some of the like key performance indicators, scorecards, which is basically job descriptions. What I've realized is once you figure that out from a loan officer's perspective, let's say, you can go out and teach that to real estate agents, financial advisors, right? Everybody that you surround yourself, and then the deals just fly in. And you're not asking for business and chasing deals. So once you get past the widget, right, the product you're selling, let's go a little high level, right? Let's talk about what some of those basics are that you're learning from other people. Did you read the book Who?
Who Not How?
It's
I read Who Not How.
No, there's another book that Cole recommends called Who.
I don't think so.
Dude, it's awesome.
Is it?
It's a game changer.
Okay.
So it's high level stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about that because first of all, how important is the widget compared to the process?
I think the process is like extremely important, and that it's interesting because like I talk a lot about this stuff, and I'm fully transparent in the fact that like I've been building. We're having our 3-year anniversary event tomorrow, so it's been 3 years of building Arizona Entrepreneur. Yeah. So I'm learning all this stuff as I'm building this company, and what I've noticed is that like the systems, the processes, the team, the people, like the operations of the company is everything, and it's something that I didn't notice until about like year 1.5 to where it was just me running it. I had maybe 1 or 2 team members, and we were just running the show to where it got too big to handle with that small staff. And so with that being said, once we started hiring on a sales team and hiring on different team members and having to build SOPs and operate, it was like a whole new world to me. And I had like a lot of mentors in operations that helped me get that process streamlined. But I will say like the offer is extremely important. That's what's going to see if people resonate with what you're offering to the marketplace or not.
And let's take a pause there, and let's make that relatable to my audience. The offer, right? Loan officers think they're offering money, loan products, maybe to the consumer. But by the time the consumer gets on the phone with you, the consumer's sold and ready to buy because they need a house, they need a mortgage, they need a good guy, right? So our offer as loan officers, it's not our mortgage products, dude, right? It's who we are, how we help other people grow. You get what I'm saying, Ed? So let's hone in on that a little bit as we transition into that like higher level. But that's kind of like the breaking point of where we're helping these loan officers make that big transition. So can we snowball there?
Yeah, and it's interesting because like, you know, it's different industries, but at the end of the day, it's like the same thing that applies. Like with the loan officer, like the offer, essentially, the way you refer to it, is like we have the same things within Arizona Entrepreneurs in our community. Like what we're trying to sell is not just like a membership as the offer. What we're trying to sell is authenticity, trust, coaching, mentorship, like all the resources to succeed as a business owner. So I think it's the same exact thing with the industry that you're in. Is like that's exactly what they're selling. They're selling themselves, their authenticity, and how they can connect with their clients and serve them at a high level. And then to snowball into it, like as far as the systems and processes, that is what's going to allow you to truly scale. I realize that you cannot scale a business without systems and processes. You have to be able to streamline those things so it can run without you there.
And what's awesome about that is there's system and processes, and then there's systems and processes. So there's the guessing on what you think is system and processes, and then there's real systems and processes. Yeah. So like, you know, when you sit down with the right people and you get the right type of coaching, when you're operating a team, it's like you got to do your wake up call in the morning with everybody, right? You do a 5 to 10 minute call. What's going on today? Where are you at? Where are we headed? What are the goals? Then those people go off and they do their sales or their job all day. Then you recap with them at the end of the day, And then they got to put notes in systems, keep updates going on. And then after that, you might even do, if they're new to the company, you're probably going to do like one-on-ones and review their recordings and sales activities Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, over, every week, every year. And then on the back end of that, like, how are you tracking it? What systems, like, right?
Yeah.
But people think that, oh, I got systems. We do this and we do that. It's like, dude, you don't even know.
I know.
And you won't know unless you talk to people or hire people that wake your ass up to like what they're doing. And they're like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference between doing 10 million a year versus 30 to 100 million a year, or people doing billions in loan volume or revenue.
Yeah.
It really is like systems versus real systems.
Exactly.
And there's some big differences out there. It's literally like the difference between, an old dated car versus like a brand new ready to go Ferrari. Like, there's a difference.
I agree, and it's interesting because like you said, I feel like you don't really know the complexity of systems and how advanced they can be until you see it. Because before, like, I thought a system and process, like I started typing up some SOPs. I'm like, oh, I got my systems and processes built. And then I continue to learn more and more things as far as how it really all it comes down to is like how you can continue to make your business more efficient and how you can make it operate without it having to all revolve around.
See, and that, what you just said right there is that's the biggest shift from when you go to selling mortgages, as an example, dollars, to building a business, scaling, growing the out of it too.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got to get out of that seat of operational deal flow and get into that owner's box and keeping an eye on high level stuff and building it from the top down.
Yeah.
Right? Awesome.
Exactly.
I want to talk about artificial intelligence. Okay. It can be advantageous in some situations. People are out there trying to sell to real estate agents and loan officers. I'll give you my example of it. I don't think it is doing a personalized enough approach to helping people in a very personal space, right? We're not selling computers. You can't sell mortgages with AI. You can't sell relationships with AI. What I've realized is when I first turned it on and I was reading the AI go and work, I was like, damn, this is pretty good. And then I saw my calendar fill up with a load of meetings. When I showed up for those meetings, the show up rate was like 10%. Then the conversations were like people that they weren't really innovative enough to like be ready to take their business to that next model. And I only had it on for like 3 weeks. I feel like leveraging that made me lose maybe a year's worth of growth, but I learned a lot really quick and I know what not to do. So have you experienced AI? Have you found success in it? And more importantly, can you find success in AI as like a setter, an appointment setter? Getting people on your calendar when you're selling something like a house or a mortgage, right?
Yeah.
I know that's a very loaded question, but I know where your head's probably going with it. So let's talk about that.
It's an interesting topic because really, like probably for everybody here in this room, it's something that's become popular over the last like year and a half, 2 years. It's
And just to be clear, we're talking about leveraging artificial intelligence to get people on the phone. Yeah. We'll get into ChatGPT and stuff like that.
Okay. I'm glad you made that specific.
We'll go back
because I could have just started talking about
No, we're talking about setting appointments for bottom line deals.
So right now, I think there's definitely some work that still needs to be done on it in order for the AI to fully be able to set appointments and to do it without a human. But I will say, with how fast it's developing and how fast it can grow a knowledge base of your products, offers, services, I think there will be a point eventually to where AI is gonna shift the industry, and people are gonna have to adapt early, and it's already happened now, even just with copywriting, for example, which I know we'll dive a little bit more later. But even with copywriting, for example, like that, I don't want to say that job's completely going out of the business. It's going to be a lot of copywriters running the AI softwares to make sure it operates.
Totally.
But
it takes 80% of the lifting.
Quick though.
It
is all I'm saying. So for example, there's this AI software. A friend of mine, he's one of our coaches for Arizona entrepreneurs, and he is like a wizard with AI. And he was showing me basically this software where you can upload a knowledge base. So say you upload 50 Ed Milet videos to it, and you upload all these different scripts and stuff that Ed Milet wrote. and then you put it in this knowledge base, and it'll basically just like scrape all of that information and be able to act and talk like Ed Milet, which is scary to think about because it's basically giving you the ability to just access knowledge that would be so hard to curate and find in like minutes.
Yeah, okay. So I agree with that. Like I use the DM system to get in front of loan officers that want coaching. I have a manually operated script because you can save scripts, and I'll fine tune it along the way. Every now and then, a message might accidentally deploy twice, which is myself, and I'll have to correct it. And what I found is there is like a mental break between entrepreneurs that understand the value of being able to run a business leveraging AI and entrepreneurs that aren't even open-minded that completely get shut down.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are probably going to fail the quickest because it is going to take over and it is evolving. I don't think it's there yet in regard to knowing how to filter out bad business.
Yeah.
I think it knows how to make it rain, but do you want like a slightly rainy day with quality leads, or do you want it piss and rain with storms and hail and you're fighting through all that just to find one good person?
That's a good point.
Right? All right, so I love ChatGPT and people don't really understand what GPT stands for. It's General Population Technology. I mean, that's not even that innovative, is it?
I didn't know that.
Isn't that crazy,
that's
dude?
pretty wild.
General Population Technology. It's crazy. So I'll give you a great example of how I've leveraged ChatGPT heavily. It took me about a year to really innovate and build out my coaching program. It's got automation in it purposely because what I found was that as I'm coaching loan officers, we got to go back to stages through the process. If I got to carve out an hour to go back and tell you something I've already told you, I got to raise my cost. I can't help as many people. So now I got to keep going up in price in order to really find two people. So I use my course as a way to bounce people back and forward. Hey, jump to this, go back to that. And that allows them to go use their time to watch it whenever they're doing shit, when they're ready to listen. So because I've done that, forced myself through it, I use GHL on the back end. And I basically took that course, built it out. It took me almost a year to really perfect automations, workflows, all that fun stuff, to now where I can go up to ChatGPT and say, type me out an entire first-time homebuyer course from introduction to lender to pre-approval to meeting an agent to finding a home to doing so I coach it down to the milestones, all the way down to getting the keys in your hand. Bang that out, dude. It rips out an entire course. Now here's where you talked about people using it for copywriting, because I'm cutting down on the amount of time it's taking me, which may have taken me a year, down to like days. Now I got my course outlay. I take it over to Grammarly and I fine tune it, dude. Moving things up in the structure, move it down, replacing words, fine tuning it more so to myself, like we talked about. Then I'll move it back over to my system, dump it in. Then I'll go back to ChatGPT and I'll say, give me an introductory description as to what a first-time home buyer is. Bam, Grammarly, edit, fix, drop. In 2 days, dude, I ripped out an entire first-time home buyer course. Came in the studio, turned my iPhone sideways, put it on a stand, had a clicker, filmed 15 videos that are roughly a minute long, uploaded them from my phone to Google Drive, and then drag and dropped them right into the program, and it's done, dude. 2 days.
That's wild.
And that's because I forced myself to learn the information, got a lot of coaching on the back end as to how to really get it done the right way. But dude, that's the difference of like doing it versus not doing it. And then once doing it, fine-tuning those steps in order to do it faster and be more successful. It doesn't matter what I'm selling, right? This goes back to the widget again. It doesn't matter what the product is. It doesn't matter if it's mortgages. It doesn't matter if it's computers. It doesn't matter if it's entrepreneur coaching. At the end of the day, the product that's so far removed from what you're doing for other people, right? That it's the systems and the operations and the successes that I think can really get you there, dude.
That's powerful, man. Yeah, it's crazy how you can leverage, especially like a ChatGPT, to get information like that. The best way I look at it is like being able to get like a structure of information, like the the bones of it and then being able to fill it in with our own thoughts and our own personality.
That's where you crush it, is when you like you said, you throw your bones in there, dude.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even interesting with ChatGPT that one of my friends told me, it sounds like based off what you just explained that you've already leveraged it in this way, but this could be good for the listeners, that you could basically like create different AI employees. So this is how my friend explained it to me, is like you can train. So in ChatGPT, if you create a new chat, you can like title the chat whatever you want. So you could basically say like, hey, or you ask it like, what are the best qualities of a copywriter?
Before you keep going, I love that, because I always open up with ChatGPT. I'll ask it the question. Hey man, you ready to talk about this? And it's like, bam, yeah, I am. It's like, we're gonna get deep. We're gonna go to here, but keep going.
I like
because you're basically you're getting ready to build out a company.
Yeah.
Without having to hire people.
Exactly.
Which is great. It's a great breaking point for entrepreneurs, because at some point you need the bones.
Exactly.
But it's a great way to start. But keep going.
So to an extent, like it's more so for like copy, I would say. But basically, you tell ChatGPT, you tell like one of the new chat channels, you're like, what are the qualities of the best copywriters in the world, and it spits out a whole blurb of here's the best qualities, and then it's like, okay, you are your name's Gerald, it's just a random name, and you have these qualities, and he pastes in the qualities. Do you understand? Yes, my name's Gerald, and I do this and this.
Yeah.
And then you could start to put more and more stuff to teach it. But that's really what I learned, because before I used ChatGPT, I would just go in there and like paste something and get an answer. Versus now I'm like training different chat channels to where like one of them is like extremely laser focused and understands all the ins and outs of this business or of this department of the company.
So be very strategic with the data that you're dumping in, because what a lot of people do is they just keep starting new chats.
Exactly.
You need to keep going into the original chat, honing in and diving deeper.
Exactly.
It really is. Sometimes for me, it feels like I'm sitting down with another coach or the executive of a company and just getting to brass tacks quick, dude. So it does take a lot of stress and time off my shoulders.
It does, man.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. So for me, it's like copy is so many things. So it could be a LinkedIn article, right? Like, so, hey, ChatGPT, I'm a residential mortgage loan officer. I want to start developing 100 posts a year that's just blog posts about the mortgage industry for LinkedIn. You ready to go? And it's like, bam, bam. And then you can even ask it, like, what are some of the hottest topics in real estate right now? And it's going to tell you.
Yeah.
And then you could be like, let's take this for today. Let's talk about that. And just to have, you're having like really high level conversations.
It's crazy.
But now you could do it for LinkedIn. You could do it for the description that you put in Instagram. You could do it for an email. You could do it for a text message. So you can really start to layer out that copy that you're talking about and really fine tune and have all of these things happening for you that at least gets you to bringing that content to your audience quicker.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of power in that for sure, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dude, that was good stuff, man.
That was, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was fun, dude. So what part of Michigan you from?
So I'm from, I grew up in Holland, Michigan.
Okay.
If you're familiar with it.
I know, I've heard it because I grew up in Illinois, the suburbs
nice.
of Illinois.
Okay.
And then I used to snowboard. I used to be sponsored for snowboarding.
Really?
But all through the Midwest. So I could never do half pipe, but I would hit park. And like we would just rip in the park all day.
Crazy.
Man. So then when I got into just before my freshman year of high school, my dad's like, all right, dude, you're done with the X Games. Like you can do that when you want, but you're either gonna wear a sling or a Speedo. Like you can wrestle or join the swim team. And I was like, man, I liked wrestling. I was good at it, but I was like, I don't really want to roll around on the mat with dudes, so I'm going to go into diving. And I dove because I used to do flips on my snowboards. Yeah. So like when I got into the pool and I had to do flips in the water, I had like no fear. So like I escalated through that pretty quickly. Ended up going to college on a scholarship. And then in 2019, which roughly sounds about the same time for
That's
you.
When I moved here, yeah.
Being in the mortgage space, you really have a pulse on markets more so than maybe people think. The writing was on the wall for me, dude. I was hoofing back and forth to Chicago. My commute was doubling, tripling in time. The economy hadn't maxed out. I was like, dude, this city can't sustain growth. One crack in the foundation, it's gonna fail. All the bridges were eroding. So for me, I was like, I got out pre-COVID. I sold all my real estate in Illinois, bought stuff here in Arizona pre-COVID, which was good for me.
Yeah.
One of the greatest things that has come to the table for me, and then I want to hear your story, and it's probably pretty close to the same, dude. Really creative, entrepreneurial people, parents, let's say, older generations, dude, they moved out of the Midwest years ago, and they lived on the coast. So while they're there in California or up in the East Coast, they're out there, man. And when I moved to Arizona and I started meeting young entrepreneurs, their mindset was way different. Their authenticity was organic and real. In business or multiple businesses, we're at completely different levels, dude. So I move out here and I'm like, holy shit, dude, there's levels to this, man. And I started meeting people that were doing more at a younger age than I probably would have ever accomplished without being in those environments or those communities. Did you have that moment?
Literally the same exact story.
Isn't that,
it feels like?
Isn't it crazy, dude?
Yeah. No, I had the same exact moment, like back in Michigan, and like all I really knew back in Michigan, because I didn't really have like a, what do you call it? Like I didn't really have in adult life as far as like a work life in Michigan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Sure.
basically I went there for all 4 years of college, played football in college, and then I moved out here. So I didn't actually experience like working or starting a business in Michigan. So I can't really make those comparisons. But what I will say is back in Michigan, it was just it's a very blue collar, like small-minded, simplistic way of living. And every time I go back, it like actually like gives me the chills because it's uncomfortable.
And it's still like that.
It's the same way. I'm seeing the same exact people. It's the same exact experience every time I go back. But with that being said, when I came out to Arizona for the first time, I actually just visited one of my friends out here. And it was right when I was about getting done with college. But I was just mind blown by, Arizona, Scottsdale, Phoenix, the whole East Valley area, just with the type of people that were out here, the businesses. Like I had such a big vision for being an entrepreneur, but I had nothing to show for it getting out of college. And I was like, I need to immerse myself in a place where I'm going to be, constantly growing. And Arizona is such a good place.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up then on what you said. I had the envision of being an entrepreneur. Mindset's one of the biggest things that I focus on with my students and myself. It's one of the last things I learned in my career. And it's because a lot of the things that I was dreaming about and thinking about, I started to see come true. And I was like, holy, this is pretty powerful, man. And I actually, to the point now where I just don't think of anything. Because you start thinking negative, right, of anything, you start thinking of bad things, dude, that shit starts to come true, man.
Yeah.
So how big are you on mindset?
It's everything to me, and like vision is something that's extremely important to me as well, because like I've experienced those things as well, to where it's like, man, I want to play college football, I want to get a full ride, and then like making that happen because it was a vision that I had in my head, so I could reverse engineer it and figure out like what tasks can I do now to like make that vision a reality.
Yeah.
And so I think about that for everything I'm doing in business, and mindset is one of the biggest things in entrepreneurship, because like if your mindset isn't there, then there's going to be nobody else to get you up in the morning to, like, when you go through an extremely challenging time through your business, to get you over that hump. So I will say, when I failed my first like business after moving here in Arizona, it was like a very difficult time, because I have all the naysayers and the people that I know in Michigan. They're like, oh man, just like get a real job. And then I had like the belief in my mind and the vision that I had for like, okay, I want to create this life for myself. I want to be an entrepreneur. So it was basically having to battle my mind between which one's more important. And oftentimes, if your mindset isn't dialed in and you don't have a strong belief system, then it's very easy to take that, they're right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. Good stuff, dude.